But I like to say I saved the best for last, but it's only because I'm the director of Tidewater Ag Research and Extension Center here in Suffolk, Virginia. We wanted to take a little time today to talk to you about the things that we do here, the faculty that are here, and I'm going to turn it over for a majority of the presentation to 3 of the other faculty here so they can talk about their individual programs. So Virginia Tech Tidewater Ag Research and Extension Center started in 1914. It was actually started by a group of farmers as a variety testing facility and grew over time. USDA was located here at Tidewater AREC for about 25, 26 years until they closed their facilities and turned it fully over to Virginia Tech. And let me get there. So our mission here, like most of the ARECs, we focus on applied research. And so we take both industry research as far as new products, as well as new technologies, and we try to apply them in a field situation. We also utilize resources, results, and products produced at Virginia Tech or at other universities, mainly in the eastern and southeastern United States, and test those in field situations as well. The goal of it is to be able to provide producers, farmers in the region, applicable information for their production systems. And that can range anywhere from, like I said, new products, new chemistries for pesticides, new varieties. I believe Carrie's going to talk a little bit about variety trials, soybeans. And those focus, again, on the Tidewater region of Virginia, but actually well beyond that. Some programs across the state and across the nation. So what we do with this applied research, we really cross many different research areas and extension or outreach areas. Obviously, because we're an applied research facility, economic sustainability of our producers is key in much of what we do. But as part of that economic and rural systems, it really crosses over into societal impacts, particularly in rural communities, obviously environmental issues, health, transportation, and then feed and fiber. Currently, right now at Tidewater AREC, we have 8 faculty members, and I'll talk about those in just a minute. We have 21 full-time staff members and 15 part-time staff members. That includes a lot of high school and college students that work here for the summer months. We have 12 graduate students that are assigned to our 8 faculty here at Tidewater AREC and 2 postdocs as well. So we have a lot going on. These individuals contribute to right now just over 100 research projects that we have in the field. We talk about the faculty here at Tidewater. I have 3 that have joined me today for this PowerPoint presentation. Starting on the left-hand side, you can see me in the pink jacket up in the top left when I had short hair. Matthew Chappell, I'm the director here at Tidewater AREC. My focus is on specialty crop agriculture as well as plant breeding and genetics. Top center, Dr. Hunter Frame is our cotton agronomist. He also has a background in soil fertility and does a lot of cover crop work. Skip by it. Coming back down, the handsome fellow in the cowboy hat, Dr. Mark Estienne, is our professor for swine physiology. Does a lot with extension and small swine producers across the state of Virginia. Below him, in the room with us, we have Jacob Forehand, who's our peanut extension specialist, and also the director of the Peanut Variety Quality Evaluation Program, which he'll talk about a little bit later. Bottom center, Dr. Carrie Ortel, she's with us. I'm not going to steal her thunder. She's our soybean agronomist, but also a background in soil fertility. Tim Bryant, center, handsome guy in the suit. He's with us today as well. He's our extension entomologist. Next to him is Dr. David Langston, who's our plant pathologist. And below David is Dr. Maria Belota, who is our crop physiologist. On the right-hand side, you've got Janet Spencer, who's our Virginia Cooperative Extension Southeast District Director. The Southeast District Office is housed at Tidewater AREC, and below her is Dr. Abla Shandel, who's our Precision Agriculture Specialist. Like most of the ARECs, the goal that we have is if somebody walks through the door with just about any question from a production standpoint, there's somebody here that can assist them. If we don't know the answer, we can find it very quickly for them. Most of you have seen this before. I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of our location. If you look at the bottom there, Tidewater AREC, we're located in the city of Suffolk, in the western part of the city of Suffolk, which is historically been the rural part of the city. I know that's ironic to say that, but it's true. Although we have a lot of urban expansion in our direction, which is one of our, I would say, hindrances in that traffic concerns, as well as just the hustle and bustle of being surrounded more and more with homes and warehouses and the like. But we work quite closely with Southern Piedmont AREC, which is in Blackstone, Hampton Roads AREC, which is in Virginia Beach, Eastern Shore AREC over there in Painter, and Eastern Virginia, which is in Warsaw. So we do work with other ARECs, but primarily because of our agronomic and row crop focus, those are the ARECs we work most closely with. We also do have a lot of collaborations with faculty in Blacksburg. For example, Michael Flessner, Julie Shortridge do a fair amount of work here, and we welcome those collaborations if anyone has any projects they would like to team up on. A little bit about the farm itself. We have 406 acres of land here. It's about 250 that we actually cultivate. The rest is swamps and timber. 33 structures, offices, labs, graduate student housing for 8 grad students, which has recently been renovated and should come online here in the next month or so. And we have actually housed graduate students from Blacksburg faculty in the past who have been doing research here over the summer months. Some of the commodities that we support, I talked about row crops. Those on the left-hand side you see with a star means that we have faculty here that they are the primary resource for that commodity for the state. So we do a lot of work with Dr. Olga Walsh on corn production, particularly variety trials. Cotton is Dr. Hunter Frame. Peanuts is Jacob Forehand, as well as Dr. Maria Belota. Our soybeans is Carrie behind us. We also do a lot of work with wheat and barley, particularly on the variety trial side, also a little bit of fertility work, and more recently, cover crops has been a large focus area. A lot of that driven by funding related to water quality in the Chesapeake Bay, but also some of our commodity associations are very interested in cover crops and how that improves soil fertility for the following crop year. And so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Jacob. Jacob Forehand, our lead for PDQE and peanut specialist. So take it away, Jacob.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Some screen sharing.
I can do it.
Instead of the presentation.
It's got the presentation on here.
I can see it, Jacob.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Jacob Forehand. I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about my program located here at the Tidewater AREC station. That is the Peanut Variety and Quality Evaluation Program. This was a program that began in 1968. It was initially a collaboration between Virginia and North Carolina. As we've gone through the program, South Carolina has been added. Essentially what this program does is we evaluate experimental peanut varieties and compare them to what we commercially have available. This gives us a sense of which varieties that are coming out from peanut breeder research groups that would be best suited for production here in the Virginia Carolinas region, also known as the VC region for peanuts. Essentially what this program does is gives breeders information on how their varieties will perform when we grow them in commercial settings. So that's really what we try to focus on with this program, is growing it in as commercial of an application as possible. So we try to hit either grower fields or grow them on research stations where we're using those commercial practices. And then we also like to incorporate environmental differences. So we look at 3 years of testing before we vote on a variety to be commercially released. So again, kind of where I see PVQE filling the gap is between what the breeder selects for, whether that be disease resistance, yield, looking at insect tolerance, and then we take it and put it in a commercial setting and again compare it to what we already have commercially. So a couple of things we tend to focus on when we're talking about standard grower practices is seeding rate, or is one of them. First couple selections that a peanut breeder may make, seed is really hard to come by for them. So a lot of their plots, at least many that I've talked to, they tend to use lower seeding rates just to minimize how much they have invested in the plot. Now, while that helps them, that doesn't always translate as far as yield, what we would expect in the quote unquote real world. Another thing where they often are making selections is fungicide use. So some of the peanut breeders may have either low fungicide applications or no fungicide applications in their programs. So again, we're trying to use commercial available fungicides, and again, trying to get on a more commercial basis as far as fungicide use. And again, the same thing goes for either fertilizer or insect management. We try to use what's commercially done on a good majority of the acres. One thing we do try to take into account is maturity. That's a big proponent in peanut management. In fact, it's one of our biggest weaknesses as far as being able to tell when the peanuts are going to mature and when we can expect the top yields out of these peanuts. And then another thing, and this is one issue our program has kind of had up until recently, is trying to keep commercial equipment that is comparable with what their farmers are actually using. And I think that's not just a peanut thing. I think that might be research world in general, is just trying to make sure what we're doing is actually comparable to what's being done in the field. So with one of our grower organizations, we were able to purchase a new peanut combine last year, which really helped that sense. I did include a video, I don't know if it'll play, but I figure many of y'all may have never seen actual peanut digger work. It's just a short little clip, but just showing, the farmers have no sense of what crop they really have until they perform this step here. So peanuts can be a tricky crop to really establish good numbers on. As far as our program, we try to select locations that are throughout this BC region. So we have 5 locations, 4 of which I manage, one being here at the Tide-Water AREC station, one in Martin County, that's on a grower field, and that's in North Carolina. Another one in Rocky Mount, which that is on a NC State experiment station. And then we also have one in Bladen County, North Carolina. And the reason we really try to spread these apart is that the growers face very different challenges in this area. One of the main aspects we think about when we talk about peanuts in Suffolk is being able to grow a fully mature crop. We've got a much shorter growing period here in Virginia, especially compared to Southern North Carolina. So that's one thing we like to think about when we're talking about variety selection. his maturity and our ability to grow it, especially in that northern region of our peanut growing area in the U.S. We do collaborate with Dan Anko, the extension specialist in South Carolina, and he manages that trial down there in Lackfield. So as far as data collection, we collect a lot of different field characteristics, but one that we really try to hit home is that maturity aspect. Here in this picture, this is just showing you what we call a pod blasting board. So we'll take a sample of peanuts before we dig them, perform a process called pod blasting where we remove the exocarp and what's left is the mesocarp. And that darkens as peanuts mature. And this is really important consideration for maximizing yield. So you want as many of those peanuts to be dark brown to black as you can possibly get before you dig. But it's like anything else, it's always magic in the numbers as far as trying to maximize that number without losing many on the back end. So what we do with this project is we take each variety that's entered into the program and we take a pod blast sample on that. And that gives us some indication of what the relative maturity is compared to the commercial varieties we already grow. Also, we collect yield. That's obviously an important part for determining what varieties are going to perform well in different areas. We also collect a good amount of data on what we call a peanut grade. So we actually have a miniature grading room here in the Tidewater AREC station. It's exactly the same machines that are used commercially. And we use that on each plot. We collect a grade sample and use that to determine what exactly we would expect that grade to be if it were grown on a much larger area. So a lot of the important factors we're talking about are moisture, form material, loose shell kernels, damaged kernels. And those can all be deductions from what a grower can get for their peanuts. Now, a couple of things that variety really has an important factor in is extra large kernels and total sound mature kernels. I've got the representative prices there of what a grower can expect to receive per percentage point. And again, extra large kernels and total sound mature kernels can vary depending on weather, harvest, and but especially variety. So then we use all this data to essentially calculate a dollar value per acre if we were to grow these on a much larger basis. And from there, we use that to determine which varieties would have yielded you the best return if they'd have been planted on a much larger basis. So we also collect some data kind of outside of the field. So one thing we do is the oil analysis, mainly looking at oleic versus linoleic oil. This has been shown to influence the ability of that peanut product to stay on the shelf longer. So this is really important for further peanut processing. So the shellers and then the manufacturers really care about this because this allows them to create a product and it can sit on the shelf longer. The consumer can buy it and they can hold it for longer before it goes bad. So just from a marketability standpoint, it's really important to those companies. We also look at what potential products these peanuts could be used for. So one aspect of that is blanchability. So removing those peanut skins from the peanuts is essential for anything that's going to be removed from the shell. Whereas we look at whole color, and that's important for those in-shell market types. Think of your ballpark peanuts. You don't want to have a bag of those that come back and are dark brown or even black. That wouldn't be very appetizing. So in addition, we're starting to look at flavor. That's something that has been brought to my attention that really hadn't been looked at a whole lot with this program is making sure the peanuts we produce are actually taste good. I mean, we have a variety that performs well, yields well, but nobody wants to buy it. Essentially, it won't be around for very long. So again, we're trying to perform or collect data that is going to be important for the peanut industry as a whole. As far as getting our data out there, we submit 2 books through DCE annually. One has the agronomic and grade data from the field, and the other has that quality data that I just discussed. Also talked with the VC Peanut News, put in articles there. And that goes out to the peanut farmers across the 3 states. We obviously do annual grower meetings here, and we're working on adding an online database to make our data a little bit more accessible to all those that may want to find it. And then we also have an annual PVQE meeting. So just a little bit more about that meeting. This is a meeting that encompasses growers, shellers, manufacturers, and processors. And I've been told it's one of the few meetings where all these folks actually get in a room and discuss. So we actually just pretty much talk about the PVQE data and use that data to determine whether a variety meets those industry standards set by the different industry groups. And then after we discuss, and we'll then vote on an experimental variety on whether or not it should be released to be grown in the VC region. So I did just want to talk a little bit about the impact of this, potential impact of this program. So North Carolina peanut growers found that within the last 18 years, roughly around $300 an acre benefit from new varieties. So most of that comes from the actual peanut breeders themselves. But I kind of see that the PVQE program allows those benefits to be noticed. So for Virginia, specifically, that results in about $9.5 million annually on the 30,000 acres we grow, roughly. And then I did just want to mention releasing a variety that does not perform well is costly. When we think about all the processes that seed has to go through before it gets to the farmer, releasing one that doesn't perform well commercially is costly to all areas of the peanut industry and really can set us back on a national scale. Did just want to spend a quick moment, talk about everything that we do as far as the PVQE program. But it's just me and my 2 technicians, Zoe Dunlow and Fitz Cherry, that work on all this. And like I said, I could not do it without them. And I'm glad that they stuck around with me for the past year and a half. I just want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the folks that we work with and that help make this possible. We have a neat collaboration between Virginia Tech, NC State, Clemson that's really not found a lot of different places. We have the 3 commodity boards being North Carolina Peanuts, the South Carolina Peanut Board, and the Virginia Peanuts. We also have an agreement with Virginia Crop Improvement, and then Birdsong and Severn also help with this program. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. Yeah.
Trim a cow.
Say what?
Trim a cow.
Oh, Dave. All right. So. We're firing Tim up here. Please be a little patient with us. I'm gonna switch places, Tim.
Sure.
There we go. Is it coming through?
All right. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Bryant. I'm the field crop entomologist here at the Tidewater AREC. I started in this position in August of this past year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what has historically been done by the entomology program here, some of the things we're doing this year in my first field season, and then some of the things that we look forward to doing as part of the whole program that we're building. So anyone who has seen me talk at extension meetings all winter has seen this slide about 6,000 times. But I think it provides really good context for the reason that this position exists here at the Tidewater AREC. So Dr. Chappell mentioned the crops that are important to our stakeholders in this area, being soybeans, corn, peanuts, and cotton. And I have responsibilities across all these different crops and all of the different insect pests that may feed on them. So what I have here is just an estimate of how much it costs on average to manage insect pests across these different crops. And that's the cost of control to manage insects, as well as the cost associated with the loss from their feeding. So across all these crops, across the state of Virginia, that totals to be about $30.4 million in cost of managing insect pests across these crops. So my primary goal is basically just to make this a smaller number. So we're doing research that hopefully will allow us to manage insect pests a little bit more effectively. And then we're also hopefully presenting that to our stakeholders in a way that's accessible, and we're giving them tools that they can actually implement on their farm. So it's 50-50 research and extension. And the ultimate goal would be that everyone is a little bit better equipped to manage insect pests in these crops. So how do we do that? I was asked today to talk about integrated pest management, IPM for short. And that really is kind of the backbone of everything that we're going to try to do in my research and extension program. And this figure I did not make, but I think it encapsulates what IPM involves pretty well. At the bottom of the pyramid, just like an old food pyramid, these are the things that you would always be using. This is the biggest part of your diet in IPM, is these agronomic practices. And these are mostly things that are occurring before you ever plant a crop and an insect shows up in that field. So you're talking about things like crop rotation, planting date, planting a resistant variety or hybrid, preserving beneficial insects, things like that, that kind of all occur before you're actually dealing with an insect pest. And then because of the scale that we work in field crops, there's not a lot of hand labor, and it's at a large scale. So biological control, things like releasing beneficial insects like you may do in a greenhouse or in a specialty crop production system, are not as feasible in a row crop production system. So then we kind of jump up to the top of the pyramid here with chemical control. So it is the smallest part of the pyramid, in that it's supposed to sort of be the last resort. You make all these decisions early in the season or between seasons, and hopefully that limits pest populations in that field to the point where hopefully you wouldn't have to apply any kind of chemical at all. But we're not really dealing with an environment where things are kind of naturally kept in check in that way. So ultimately we do end up applying an insecticide more often than not. So part of what we do is develop best management practices for those uses of chemicals when we do need to do them. And then we also have transgenic technology, both in corn and cotton, that provides that plant some inherent insect production. And that's used widespread in corn and cotton in Virginia. But anytime something gets used across all the acreage that we have, it comes with issues, namely insect resistance. So these transgenic technologies kind of fall somewhere ambiguously on this pyramid, but it is an important part of what we do in monitoring the efficacy and of those technologies, and then insect resistance to them. So everything I'm going to talk about hopefully fits nicely into this IPM framework. And the idea behind IPM is that you use all of these various strategies together, and it allows you to produce a better result than if you just used one of them in isolation without any of the other strategies. So I started in August of this past year, and one of my first tasks was to figure out what our stakeholders needed from me. So I spoke at a pile of different extension meetings over this past winter and conducted a needs assessment survey to determine what information people wanted from me, and what would be helpful for them to better manage insect pests. So this question just read: to more effectively manage insect pests, I would like more information on blank. And these were the top responses. So as expected, insecticide efficacy and resistance issues was about 42% of the responses. Insect scouting and monitoring was second, or sort of tied with things like conservation, biological control, and then cultural control strategies. So planting date, tillage, nutrient management, all that kind of stuff falls under that umbrella. And then a few other things that came out in the wash a little bit, but we're still there, were insect ecology and behavior. So when and where insects show up, how they interact with their environment, and then host plant resistance. So based on the results of this survey and interactions with stakeholders and kind of that framework of IPM that we already had before I got here, these are kind of the key program focuses. And these are, again, are things that stakeholders have come to expect from the entomology program here at the Tidewater AREC. Some of the things from my own experience that I'm bringing here, and things we'll move forward to in the future. So those are optimizing agronomic decisions for IPM, understanding pest ecology and biology, insect monitoring, and then insecticide efficacy and resistance. So I'm just going to give a 10,000-foot view of kind of what we're doing in all these different facets. There's a lot of different insect pests that we work with across a few different crops. So we could sit here for 4 hours and I could tell you individual projects that we're working on this year. But hopefully what I'm going to do is just kind of give you a sense of the types of things that we do and how they fit into IPM and our goals for this program. So we'll start here with pest prevention or limitation or agronomic decision making. So this is the bottom of our pyramid. And I'm really lucky in being an entomologist here at the Tidewater AREC, and that we have the state specialists for peanuts, soybeans, and cotton here. So it's very easy for us to collaborate. We have field space to do research. Our offices are right next door to each other. So this was kind of a natural place to start. And I think sometimes an underserved element of integrated pest management. So we have a few different projects going this year in collaboration with Jacob Forehand, who you just heard from, Hunter Frame, who's our cotton specialist, and then Carrie Ortel, our soybean specialist, who you'll hear from after me. Looking at various aspects of crop management that you wouldn't historically maybe think of as insect management, but may have an impact on an insect's occurrence in the field, how it interacts with that crop, its damage potential, maybe some aspect of those agronomic decisions improves your biological control that naturally occurs, all these kinds of things. So we have projects looking at cotton fertility and plant growth regulation, peanut planting date and variety selection, and then looking at cover crop composition, effect on thrips. These are just a few of the things that we're working on, namely in collaboration with other faculty here at the AREC. So moving up the IPM pyramid here a little bit, this is the pest ecology and biology part of what we hope to do. And a lot of this is understanding where and when pests occur and how they interact with their environment once they are there. So this is looking at things like species compositions. So for example, there's a host of different species of stink bugs that feed on basically every crop that we work with. And understanding which of those stink bug species is occurring is important for properly managing them. So looking at species compositions, looking at how they're spatially distributed within that field. So stink bugs, again, is a good example. Oftentimes they're aggregated on the edge of the field. So if we can better understand where they most commonly occur, maybe we can target our management more specifically to those areas of the field rather than spraying an entire field and spending obviously all those application costs to do so. And then the final piece of this would be the interaction of these pests with other pests. So they don't occur in isolation. We'll go back to the stink bug example. So stink bugs is the pest of soybeans, and then cornea worm. So seeing how those co-occur, if feeding from one makes damage from the other worse, if it drives it away, understanding those interactions is not necessarily always going to lead you directly to a management system that you could implement, but it is an important part of kind of understanding how the pest occurs, and hopefully leads you down the road to where you would develop a management strategy at some point based on that. So then interactions of pests with beneficial insects and their environment, which in this case would be namely their host plant, so corn, cotton, peanuts, and soybean. So some of the things that we're working on this year in particular to kind of improve our understanding of pest ecology is improving our monitoring for a couple of key pests. So one of those is corn earworm, which is primarily a migratory pest. So it flies north each year from southern regions where it can overwinter, and then it lays its eggs on various crops, and those larvae feed, and that's an economic issue. So we got some funding from the Virginia Soybean Board to distribute these white mesh traps. I don't know if y'all can see the pointer there. And those have been established all over the state. And we built this web tool to provide that data directly to our growers. And hopefully what they can do is look at the moth capture numbers and then know in that immediate area, it's time to go and initiate a scouting or initiate management for this important pest. So that's sort of an existing pest. And in the world of entomology, there's always something new popping up. So over the past few years, Asiatic garden beetle has been a sort of a sporadic pest of cotton in the southeastern part of the state. So that's been something we've been monitoring. We've got funding from Cotton Incorporated to work on that. And we've been working with a lot of our growers that we work closely with to monitor for that over the past couple of years. And I'll also mention here, I sort of touched on it, but half of my job is research and half is extension. So the through line throughout everything that I'm talking about is an ability to present that information to our growers. So we do that through kind of traditional extension publications, like we did here for the garden beetle, as well as through social media, hopefully making some videos about some of these pest issues here in the near future. So whatever we can do to get that information out. And then we get to the top of the pyramid, to chemical control. So best laid plans of mice and men. You've selected the right variety, you planted everything on time, you preserved your beneficial insects for as long as possible. Ultimately, pests are still going to reach the economic threshold, and you're going to have to go and make an insecticide application in many cases. So there's a few key questions associated with that chemical control. Just a few of them here is first and foremost, which products work. So basic insecticide efficacy is something we're doing across a number of pests in all of our crops basically every year. And then we're looking at how effective economic thresholds are compared to calendar-based sprays or growth stage-based sprays. When you can stop managing pests. So at what point in the season is it no longer economically valuable for you to protect that crop from those pests? So chemical control is, you know, it's an easy thing to implement, but there are a lot of decisions that go along with it for it to be highly effective. So those are some of the questions that we try to answer. And another big piece of chemical control is that anytime we're using something frequently, pests are going to develop resistance to that strategy, sometimes relatively quickly. So you can see on this figure in the bottom left, we've been doing corn earworm resistance monitoring since 2003, which was 2 entomologists ago in my position. And we're continuing that to this day. And then thrips is another major pest in cotton and peanut. And we've been working a good bit this year with trying to determine which insecticides are still effective for those pests. And all of this is kind of done through real world monitoring in the fields, through insecticide efficacy tests, as well as in the lab. And a lot of that is done in collaboration with faculty here at Virginia Tech and at other universities. Which leads me into this slide on all the collaborations. So everything that I've talked about, basically everything is done in collaboration with somebody somewhere. whether it's other faculty here at the AREC, other faculty in the southeast region of the US, which is relatively similar to us here in Virginia. And there's a working group of entomologists in the southeast that establishes objectives every year through multi-state working groups that encompasses corn and soybean specialists from states throughout the entire US. Everything is done with a regional perspective in mind and with faculty at other universities. So we're always open to collaborations. A lot of these studies that we do only get more relevant when we're spread across a wider geographic range, and the data only becomes more valuable to our stakeholders. So that's some of the things that we're doing currently or will be working on in the future. And that is all I have for y'all. Thank you.
Mr. Carey real quick, and she's. That's it.
All right, well, while Dr. Chappell is getting my Zoom presentation loaded, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself. So my name is Carrie Wortell. I am the Extension Soybean Agronomist here at the Tidewater AREC with statewide responsibilities. So I'm happy to be here at the office today, but it's been a while since I've had an office day. So been on the road a lot, but really just wanted to take this opportunity, thank you, to kind of highlight a couple of key components of my program. And so I started last April of 2024. So really still building the program in the direction that really I'm trying to gain from, again, a needs assessment survey, similar to what Tim said. So I wanted to just share the highlights of that with y'all to kind of lay the groundwork for where I'm going to go with this. And basically, last year, we were able to get 105 respondents for a needs assessment survey and ask them to identify what their top needs are in soybean agronomy and soybean production in Virginia. So starting from the bottom is the most selected answer. And so really I want to highlight 3 of these. So what speaks to me the most is that 100% of the respondents all selected planting recommendations as a need or an interest for soybean production. So definitely going to highlight that. Number 2 is weed control. And I think here at Virginia Tech, we have a very strong weed science program with Dr. Flesner and Dr. Vijay Singh. So that is not my strength. So I'm going to let them keep tackling that and work collaboratively together. And then nutrient management is number 3, and that is my background. So I was really excited to see that. Number 4 is cover crop selection, and number 5 is variety testing. So these 3 that are highlighted in orange are what I'm going to really emphasize on. And the other ones are really where I hope to bring the program in the future and hopes to build. So kind of starting with number 5 is variety selection. And here I am running the soybean official variety testing, or you might hear me call it OVT, official variety testing. So within that, in 2025, we have 85 commercially available soybean varieties that are entered by 14 different companies, as well as some from Virginia Tech soybean breeding lines. And these are tested in replicated small plots at 5 locations for full season production systems and 2 locations for double crop. So the maroon locations are the full season only. So that is the Eastern Shore AREC, the Southern Piedmont AREC, and the orange, I think that's a research station. And then the orange dots are us down here at the Tidewater AREC and the Eastern Virginia AREC. So we have both full season and double crop test for this. And so this has been something that my predecessor, David Holzhauser, focused a lot on. So I want to continue to keep that a key component of the program and annually release the results in a PDF form. But then Suzanne and some folks in Blacksburg have also been helping me build this variety selection tool. And so I believe Jacob was referring to this earlier, but with her help, we've been able to get all of the results from last year's data online into this new tool. And so if you go to the Tidewater AREC page, you can find this under the soybean agronomy program. And just click around a little bit. So this is going to be provided, this is 2024 data, but as soon as 2025 harvest begins, I'll start uploading the most current data into this and hopefully provide this just as a more dynamic way of looking at that data in addition to the traditional PDF. So trying to provide some additional resources and information from that data set that we're collecting at all these different ARECs and farms across the state. So to kind of highlight why this is important and why we spend all of this time with the variety selection. So, that was number 5 in the needs assessment. But if we look at one of the tables from last year's PDF publication, basically, if we look at, so I took all of the variety information out. So I just gave it numbers because I don't want to highlight that one company is necessarily better than the other. This is just pure numbers. So if we look at this, the top variety yielded 75 bushels per acre across the locations in the state, where the bottom variety in just this group of maturity group 4s and indeterminate soybeans was 56 bushels per acre. And so the difference there is 19.2 bushels per acre, and that's a statewide average. So that's not one site or another, that's across all locations, 19.2 bushel difference. So if we multiply that by the average price that Virginia soybeans were sold for last year in 2024, that was $9.80 a bushel. Now we've come up with $188 per acre. So that's substantial. And these are all managed exactly the same. The only difference is that variety selection. So if we take that one step farther and say, okay, the average farm size in Virginia is 300 acres. So now we're all of a sudden looking at $56,000 per farm in savings just by picking that top variety compared to the bottom variety. And if we really want to extrapolate it, we can say, okay, so we have on average 610,000 acres of soybeans grown in Virginia annually. So if we're able to save $188 per acre just in variety selection, that quickly snowballs to over $100 million in Virginia soybean economy. Now, obviously, this is extrapolated, right? But based on the survey data, about 60% of our producers are using the OVT data to select their variety. And so this can be very impactful very quickly because ultimately this is just looking at picking the right variety to optimize your yield. So that's very important. And the other thing that I really wanted to highlight is the Science for Success team. And so this is very timely for me because I spent my week in Madison, Wisconsin with this group of soybean agronomists who are all collaborating on really just providing the best extension programs possible. So you can see our picture here that we took Tuesday of this week. And basically really what we did is we all gathered together this week is a great example and happy to talk about it, but basically got together with the intention of having these coordinated research efforts, leveraging local knowledge, and ultimately amplifying our checkoff dollars. And so from my perspective as a new soybean agronomist, I'm really, really happy to be part of this team and this group because this has really been beneficial for me as I build this program to hear from the experts and really get that set of knowledge that they can provide. So together we sat down, we talked about some improvements that we all can be making with social media and how we can be reaching farmers more effectively. And then we also got to see some field tours and hear from Dr. Sean Connolly with his program in Wisconsin. So it was a great group, great week, and really have been enjoying being part of that team. And so one of the efforts here is this coordinated research efforts. And so this group really picks some key issues and challenges that we deal with in soybean production across state lines and looks at that in a coordinated research protocol. And so last year they reached out and they identified potassium deficiencies in soybeans to be one of the issues that farmers face across state lines. And so I am going to be leading this effort. We're leading at this starting this year. But basically the challenge with potassium deficiencies in soybeans are the picture on the top. This is a picture from, I believe, Essex County that has a potassium deficiency, yield limited, but no visual deficiencies and no visual indication that we have a problem. And so the challenge is, how do we diagnose that issue if we cannot rely on these visual deficiencies like we see in this picture that was taken in Southampton County last year? That's an obvious deficiency. We know that's a problem, but we need to really build some more tools to be able to diagnose these deficiencies. So together, I am leading research across 16 different states. We're all going to work together and really trying to build up this, trying to validate some of these dynamic critical potassium concentrations, evaluating, can we improve our diagnostic abilities? And then can we also confirm our ability to correct a deficiency once we have confirmed that we do have a problem there? And then using this network of soybean agronomists and extension specialists to really amplify this information and get this out to farmers nationwide. So this is a great opportunity for me. I'm really excited. This is also a topic that I love to talk about. So it's a great fit, and really excited for what's to come with this research. But ultimately, just want to really summarize, from the needs assessment survey and my experience, I've kind of identified 5 pillars of the soybean agronomy program. And the top one here is planting recommendations. Now, I didn't touch on that too much today, but we've got a planting date maturity group seeding rates trial that's funded by the Virginia Soybean Board. We're also looking at some slug research in collaboration with Tim, and we've also got some strip tillage versus no-till trials with some county agents. So looking at some different avenues of planting recommendations. And then nutrient management with that potassium study and the Science for Success group, variety testing with those OBTs. I already mentioned the Science for Success group, but really can't emphasize that enough. And then really, ultimately, really trying to support agent success. And so really trying to unite the Virginia Cooperative Extension grains team and support their success, because ultimately, if they're successful on the county level, then I feel like we're being successful as specialists. So that's really how I'm trying to spend my time, and really invite you all, if you see some overlap, to reach out and maybe we can collaborate on some projects. So with that, I believe I'm out of time and really appreciate the opportunity. And I'm happy to take questions now, but I've also got my contact information on here if you'd like to reach out. So.
Well, we've got one more, and then we'll take any questions. Suzanne, if you're ready to share your screen, we have our cleanup hitter is Suzanne Pruitt, who's our communication specialist.
Yeah, let's see here. All right. Can you see my screen, Matthew?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, everybody. I just wanted to thank you for being part of our seminar session today, and to invite you to connect with us. If you are not already following us on one of our social media platforms, just want to make you aware that we are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Most recently on our YouTube channel, I just want to let you know we've got some updated playlists on there, some new videos from our plant pathology and nematode diagnostic lab. We've got 4 new videos on there. Also, Carrie has been hosting the VCE grains team meetings. Those are also on our YouTube channel, as well as all of the seminar sessions. So please check those out when you have time to do so. Also wanted to let you know we've got 2 field day events coming up here at the Tidewater AREC. We've got the Corn and Soybean Twilight Tour coming up July 23rd. Carrie Ortel is organizing that. And we will also have the Virginia Cotton Growers Field Day in August. So come on out and join us for that as well, if you can. And let's see. All of this information and more you can find on our website at any time. We've got links for our latest Tidewater AREC news on a VT News channel link. All of our upcoming events are available on the calendar. And you can also access our newsletter through the website in case you are not a social media user. So with that, that's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
You're
We've got a
welcome.
We've got a couple minutes left. I'm not sure if anybody had any questions for Jacob, Tim, or Carrie, but we'll open the floor, or you can type them in the chat. Quiet bunch. It's too hot for questions. Just too hot for questions. Well, not hearing anybody unmute and ask questions. So again, thank you for those who joined us today. I'll remind everybody that this is the last of the 11 AREC seminars for this year. We'll try to start it back up again August or September, and we hope everyone has a wonderful summer. Thank you.